The world remembers the life and legacy of our 39th president, Jimmy Carter, who passed away at the age of 100. KOAM News at 10 is next.
The nation remembers former President Jimmy Carter. I'm Cristian Benavides at the Carter Center in Atlanta with where funeral plans stand.
Plus, the 4 living former presidents talk about the loss of the president who preceded them. And some Joplin residents talk about the impact former President Carter had on their lives.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Tributes are pouring in from all around the world for the late Jimmy Carter. This is KOAM News at 10. I'm Samantha Walker. The nation's 39th president died Sunday at the age of 100. Now plans for his official national funeral are being released so people from coast to coast can pay their respects. Christian Benavides has the latest from Atlanta.
Jimmy Carter, the former peanut farmer, Navy veteran, state senator, governor, president, and Nobel Peace Prize recipient, is being remembered as a peacemaker, a humble man of faith and integrity, tirelessly dedicated to the causes of democracy and helping others. Following his time in the White House, the single-term president went to work helping build hundreds of homes across the country with Habitat for Humanity. This man lives in a home Jimmy and Rosalind Carter helped build in Mishawaka, Indiana.
Thank you, Jimmy Carter. I'm very grateful for you and what you did for me and my family.
I have always been a Christian, and I think one of the key things we learn from Christ is that we should help people in need.
The national funeral for Jimmy Carter will be held at the Washington National Cathedral on January 9th. President Biden has declared that day a national day of mourning and ordered the nation's flags be flown at half-staff for 30 days.
While tributes are pouring in from around the world, perhaps the most notable came from Carter's 5 living successors.
He was a statesman and humanitarian. And Jill and I lost a dear friend.
Former and President-elect Trump said while he strongly disagreed with Carter, the late president worked hard to make America a better place, and for that I give him my highest respect. Bill Clinton said Carter worked tirelessly for a better, fairer world. George W. Bush said he was a man of deeply held convictions and that he dignified the office. And Barack Obama said Carter vowed to always tell the truth, and he did, advocating for the public good. Consequences be damned. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Atlanta.
Starting Saturday, Carter will line repose at the Carter Presidential Center in Georgia. On Tuesday, January 7th, he will be taken to Washington, D.C. to lie in a state at the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol, where mourners may pay their respects. He will be laid to rest on his family's property in his hometown of Plains, right next to Rosalind, his wife of 77 years. As the elder statesman of the most exclusive club in the world, President Carter got to know the presidents who followed him in the White House. Erica Brown is in Washington, D.C. with their reactions.
President Biden ordered the flag at the White House and all federal buildings be lowered to half-staff in tribute to the 39th president, Jimmy Carter.
Millions of people all around the world, all over the world, feel they lost a friend as well, even though they never met him. And that's because Jimmy Carter lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds.
Biden's praise of Carter's character was echoed in the statements from the other living presidents. Former President Bill Clinton praised Carter for his tireless work to make the world a better place. Former President George W. Bush said that Carter dignified the office. And former President Barack Obama said Carter promised to always tell the truth. And he did, advocating for the public good, consequences be damned.
Bravery lives in every heart, and someday it'll be summoned. Every time it was summoned, he stepped up. Every time, politically, personally, morally.
President-elect Donald Trump, who'd been a vocal Carter critic, relayed a story to historian Douglas Brinkley about the two meeting in 2016.
Immediately, Carter said to Trump, "Now I'm trying to save lives around the world, with the guinea worm, and we're doing this at the Carter Center, and I need a substantial gift of money from you."
I love that. He guilted him, right?
He guilted, and Trump said, "That's the first time I ever figured out how he became president."
Sunday, Trump said on social media, while he strongly disagreed with Carter, the late president worked hard to make America a better place. And for that, I give him my highest respect. Carter will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol next week. Erica Brown, CBS News, Washington.
King Charles was among the many world leaders also remembering President Carter. He sent condolences, praising Carter's dedication and humility, calling it an inspiration to many. Although President Jimmy Carter may no longer be with us, his legacy continues to live on. The 39th president dedicated much of his life to advocating for affordable housing, providing quality homes for those in need. Through the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter Work Project, he helped build and renovate over 4,000 homes. We spoke with Joplin residents to hear their thoughts and reactions following the passing of the 100-year-old leader.
He was very pleasant man. He went out of his way to shake as many hands as possible.
Fantastic humanitarian, very kind, decent, wonderful man who devoted his life to being a servant leader.
Some local residents said although they weren't affiliated with the same party as the president, his hard work and dedication were undeniable. Chief Meteorologist Doug Hetty joins us with a first look at weather.
Well, it turned out to be a mild Monday for us today, all the way up to 62 degrees, well above our average high. In fact, the record is 70. We should be topping out right around 45 degrees for this time of the year. We're going to get much closer to that number, maybe not even hit that number for a high tomorrow. 49 in Joplin, Pittsburgh sitting at 48, slowly cooling down. We've had a cold front kind of shift through, so the winds have really increased. We've had winds gusting at times 30, upwards of 35 miles per hour as we have worked through the evening hours. A lot of clouds, a few pockets of drizzle, but not a big deal. Most of this rain, most of this snow is going to slide by just to our north and to our east. We are going to have the clouds and a little bit of drizzle, but as this passes by, we'll get the sunshine once again on your Tuesday. Bigger storm system this weekend. We're going to talk about that here in a bit.
Thanks, Doug. Local law enforcement looks to cut down on DUIs for the upcoming holiday. That story coming up, but up first.
From the rise of popular weight loss drugs to the return of diseases preventable by vaccines. I'm Michael George with the year's top health stories.
It's not crazy, it's Casey's.
Lagging vaccination rates lead to record cases and deaths for several viruses and the extra benefits from weight loss drugs. Michael George looks back at the year's top health stories.
Studies showed weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy have wide-ranging benefits from Alzheimer's disease to kidney function to addiction. They're so popular, copycat versions popped up.
They have not been safety tested. We don't know if they're as effective as the prescription drug.
The CDC says 2024 had 4 times the number of measles and whooping cough cases than the previous year. Pediatric deaths due to influenza hit a record high, due in part to lower vaccination rates. The American Red Cross declared an emergency blood shortage, with donors at a 20-year low.
People need to realize it's not that hard, it's not that much time.
Dozens of cases of H5N1 bird flu have been confirmed in people. Most infections are traced back to contact with farm or wild animals. Mosquito-borne illnesses caused some panic this summer. Several Massachusetts towns issued voluntary lockdowns in the evening to prevent infection of triple E.
These are recommendations. They're not hard and stop requirements.
A CBS News analysis found foodborne illnesses have increased 42% since 2013. They caused several high-profile recalls, including for E. coli at some McDonald's and for deadly listeria in Boar's Head deli meat.
They're happening more frequently.
The American Cancer Society found colorectal cancer is now the leading cause of cancer death in men under 50, and the second leading cause of cancer death for women of the same age. A separate ACS report shows Generation X and millennials have a higher risk of developing 17 cancers compared to older generations.
It's likely an environmental aspect, whether that's diet, lack of exercise, some other exposure.
The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force now recommends women start receiving mammograms at age 40 instead of 50 and get screened every other year up to age 74. Research from the Annals of Internal Medicine shows alcohol use spiked during the COVID-19 pandemic and stayed high through at least 2022.
People don't know where to get help. They don't know that they need help.
The CDC says opioid overdose deaths slowed to the lowest level since 2020 after peaking in 2023.
I'm blessed to have received this gift
a second chance at life.
And Tawana Looney became the 5th American to receive a gene-edited pig organ. Researchers say this experimental procedure could be a game changer someday for the thousands on transplant waiting lists. Michael George, CBS News.
Hurricane Helene also wreaked havoc in the medical world in 2024, closing a North Carolina manufacturer that left hospitals low on IV fluids. Join us tomorrow night on KOAM News at 10 when we bring you the notable obituaries from the past year. The Joplin Police Department has some sobering advice for drivers headed into the new year. New Year's Eve will mark a night of celebration for many people in Joplin, and for some, alcohol will be involved. Captain Will Davis from the Joplin Police Department says there are plenty of options if you plan to make alcohol a part of your New Year's celebration.
Number one, we want to curb alcohol-related fatalities. Number one, this isn't the time of year where you want to be involved in a crash, especially where it impacts somebody's life or a family member's life. Somebody loses their life, and so you have those things. You have serious injuries that can happen on top of criminal-related charges that the potential felony charges that could come from it.
The Pittsburgh Police Department is also encouraging people to put safety first on New Year's Eve. They're also making efforts to keep the roads safe through a partnership with KDOT. The partnership, called Taking Down DUI, will have more officers on the roads to patrol and make sure people aren't driving while intoxicated. This initiative takes place from December 26th to January 2nd.
During this time frame, we also have officers out that are specifically focused on traffic and aren't dependent on calls. And they're not having to share traffic enforcement detail with just normal patrol duties. Like, they are specifically out there for traffic.
He encourages people to plan ahead for the New Year's Eve and make sure you have a ride if you plan to drink. A little later, the holiday season will end soon, but not before Fort Scott's synthetic ice skating rink adds a few more dates to its schedule.
And we have much colder air down the road moving in. We're going to talk about that coming up.
Today for the chill.
Well, it turned out to be a fairly mild day for us today, especially for the very end of December as we went into lower 60s during the afternoon. Looks pretty good right now. Nice shot of our Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Indigo is just outside of Seneca, Missouri. A lot of clouds, windy, turning colder as we go through the next couple days. Outside right now, it's not cold, but it is cooler, mid to upper 40s to lower 50s once you get into our southern counties. Sitting at 49, here's 7th and range line. Visibility's good, winds northwest at about 20, but those gusts have been kind of in that 30 to 35 mile per hour range. Look at the winds kicking in, northwesterly winds at about 10 to 20. But of course, gusts higher than that. And they're going to stay up tonight. We'll have winds gusting 20 to 30, but occasionally over 30. Here's tomorrow morning, and then slowly coming down as we get into Tuesday evening. So cooler tomorrow, also on the windy side. Clouds rotating through. Any rain mainly staying northeast of us. We may get a few pockets of drizzle as we go through the overnight hours. But you can see this storm system, it's just missing us just to the north and to the east. The snow back through parts of Nebraska and Iowa. But again, some drizzle and a random light little shower kind of passing through. So we start the day with the clouds, upper 30s. We'll get a little bit of sunshine in here by noon, lower 40s. Once we get into the afternoon, I think most of us 42 upwards to about 45 degrees. So about 20 degrees cooler than what we saw today. Tomorrow night gets cold, clear skies, dip back low to mid 20s. And then on Wednesday, for your New Year's, kicking off 2025, much of the same, 42, 43 degrees during the afternoon. All right, day planner on New Year's Eve, 40 in the morning, 41 by noon, 43 for a high. Roads are going to be dry, which is good for anybody who's going to be out. All right, then we got changes down the road. We got a weak system on Thursday. This could give us a few random showers, mixing in a flake or two of snow. It passes right on by. Not a huge deal. Friday looks good. Saturday looks good, cold but good. And then Sunday gets tricky. Here comes our next storm system. If it tracks farther south, we get all snow. If it tracks farther north, we get all rain. If it tracks this way, which I think is fairly accurate, we'll see because it's still 4 or 5 days away, we'll have rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. So this should be our first winter event unless if it shifts about 100 miles to the north. Also with it, it's going to drag in colder Arctic air on the backside. So we're going to feel more like January once we get into the second half of the weekend. All right, 43 on your Tuesday. Let's go 43 on your Wednesday, 42 on Thursday, a few showers. Colder on Friday, and then the bigger system on Sunday and Monday, and then mainly highs only in the 30s all of next week.
That sounds great. I know I, like many people, will be patiently waiting to see what that winter weather kind of looks like within the next few days.
It'll change every day, trust me.
I mean, welcome to the 4 states.
Yeah.
It's what to expect. Well, thanks, Doug. The winter holiday season is almost over, but the Glide in Fort Scott is adding a few more dates to their schedule. The Glide is Fort Scott's synthetic ice skating rink. The extra hours are tomorrow from 4 to 9 p.m. and Wednesday from noon to 4. All skaters are welcome, and entry is only cost $5. Your last opportunity to skate the Glide this season will be this weekend. Avid readers and adventurers have a cool hangout to gather at this Friday. The Nevada Public Library is hosting a cozy camp-in. The event takes place from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. and will feature reading forts in the stacks, quiet reading time by flashlight, games, snacks, and more. Still ahead, the Missouri Tigers face Iowa in the Music City Bowl. And a Seneca High School softball player makes her college commitment. John Dales has those stories and more up next in sports.
No credit. Being strong.
High school softball season in Southwest Missouri is still several months from returning, but this week we get some recruiting news that one of the top juniors in the area is committing to a Division I school. Seneca High School junior Abby Jamrose is verbally committed to play softball at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Jamrose received second-team All-State honors as a pitcher her freshman season back in 2022. Over her first 3 high school seasons playing for the Indians, she's gotten it done all over the place at the plate as well as in the field. Jamrose will play for former Missouri Southern assistant coaches Josie Topai and Cody Barham, who are both on the staff at UMKC. Well, several of our high school basketball teams are in action at various tournaments around the area. One of those is taking place in Washburn, Missouri. It's the Southwest High School Holiday Tournament. Tonight's the championship round, and on the girls' side, Cassville wins 64-52 over Commerce, and the Lady Wildcats are tournament champions. They're off to a 9-2 start to the season. Commerce finishes in second place. Tigers made it close down the stretch, pulling to within 8 points after trailing by 22 at halftime. The boys' championship got off to a little bit of a late start, so the fourth quarter is just wrapping up as we come on the air. But most recent check of that score has East Newton with a 10-point lead over Monette with just about 3 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter. Well, this afternoon is the final game of the 2024 college football season for the Missouri Tigers. A win would give Mizzou back-to-back seasons with double-digit victories, something it hasn't accomplished in a decade. And the Music City Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee, Mizzou takes on Iowa. They're tied at 7 late in the first quarter when Caden Weegan fields this kickoff from a yard deep in his own end zone, gets a couple blocks, finds some space to run, and takes it all the way, 101 yards to the house. That puts the Hawkeyes up by 7. We go ahead to the third quarter. Tigers trailing by 10 at this point. Brady Cook, off a play-action fake, unleashes it deep down the middle of the field, and Marquise Johnson makes an incredible leaping catch. That drive would end in a touchdown. Now to the fourth quarter, things tied at 24. Eli Drinkwitz sends out his kicker for a 56-yard field goal try. He already made a 51-yarder at this point, and this one is right down the middle. Mizzou leads by 3 late in the fourth quarter. Now on the next drive, final minute of the game, Iowa facing 4th down and 1, tries to get that yard with the quarterback sneak. That gets stuffed by the Missouri defense. So the Tigers are 2024 Music City Bowl champions. They win it 27-24. They have back-to-back seasons with double-digit wins. And closing things out in the NFL, not much of a surprise here. The Lions improved to 14-2 on the season after a 40-34 victory over the 49ers on the road. If Detroit beats Minnesota this Sunday, it will have the #1 seed in the NFC playoffs. So the Lions definitely one of those teams that threaten the Chiefs in terms of they could stop them from being back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
You know, I think that's something that we're going to watch that, and I think people in the 4 states will be stressed, fingers crossed, as they go on.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, John. That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this. Well, of all the days of the year, today is not the time to say, hold the bacon. That's because it's National Bacon Day, and bacon lovers are expected to celebrate it either at breakfast, perhaps with a side of eggs or toast, or some people sprinkle bacon onto sandwiches, soups, appetizers, even some cocktails like to include it. The United States and Canada make bacon from the pork belly, and on average, about half of all Americans eat at least 1 pound of bacon each year. I'm honestly a little surprised it's only a pound.
I'm way above that average.
Yeah,
I'm at least a probably 5 to 10 pounder. So
yeah,
it's okay.
Impressive.
Yeah. See, I got all choked up. All right, weather-wise, turning cooler tomorrow and Wednesday. Highs only into lower 40s. Very windy tomorrow as well. Really got to watch this system moving in on Sunday. Every single bit of data that comes in points toward a bigger winter storm.
Well, that's something we'll be watching. We have some big sports news as well.
Yeah, tomorrow in the college football world, the quarterfinals of the college football playoffs get started. That's tomorrow night.
Well, thanks so much. Thank you, John, and thank you, Doug. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's make it a great evening.